Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. I saw a statistic today as I was just combing through everything, trying to come up with storylines and interesting things to look at, and it surprised me. And I'm curious to see if it surprises you, the listener. Would it surprise you if I told you that LSU was the third-ranked rushing offense in the SEC? Maybe not, but it surprised me a little bit. When I think about what this LSU offense has done over the course of this season, I think about the dynamic play of Jayden Daniels and Malik Davis, the oncoming of Brian Thomas, the big points and big plays that have come largely through the passing game. And when I think of the running game, I think of a unit that's kind of gotten it going here a little bit lately, but that was awful against Florida State. Like that's how it's framed in my mind at this point. But only Tennessee and Auburn have run the football better than LSU thus far. And I think we're getting to the point where the statistics can be taken seriously. Most have some situations where they've played really poor teams. Most teams have played somebody that's really good. Sometimes it doesn't balance out. I would suggest South Carolina playing North Carolina and playing Tennessee and playing Georgia might be a little bit more difficult, certainly than like Missouri at this point, who's played Middle Tennessee and Memphis and has played Vanderbilt. Like it's not all apples to apples, but we're at a point now where statistics can tell some truths. And LSU's running attack has been better. You look at in just the SEC games. Against Mississippi State, LSU ran it 39 times for 163 yards. Now, Jayden Daniels was the lion's share of that. He carried it 15 times, which led the team for 64 yards, which led the team. He had 2 touchdowns, which led the team. But Logan Diggs got going. He ran for 4.5 yards per carry in that game. Caleb Jackson had the highlight reel run that we saw, and it was a pretty solid running effort on a day where the passing offense was outrageously good. In Arkansas, inside Tiger Stadium, you ran the ball 29 times in that game for 189 yards on the ground. That's very, very strong. Logan Diggs, that was kind of his breakout. 14 carries for 97 yards. That's 7 yards per carry for Diggs in that game against Arkansas. Josh Williams hit the 41-yarder down the left sideline, which was a nice play. Jayden Daniels chipped in with his 36 yards. So that was a strong effort on the ground. And then against Ole Miss, I think we know everything they did on offense basically worked. He had 37 carries for 223 in that game. Diggs goes over 100 at 5 yards a carry, and it wasn't like he busted a big one. Logan Diggs' longest run against Ole Miss was 13 yards, and he averaged over 5 yards a carry. Had the 2 touchdowns. Jayden Daniels goes for 99 yards of his own, 6.6 yards per carry in that one. So if you take LSU's 3 SEC games, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and Ole Miss, 105 carries for 575 yards. Obviously, that's 5.5 yards per carry, which is excellent. 192 rushing yards per game for LSU, which is very, very good. Against Florida State, the running backs did nothing, as I mentioned. They ran it 12 times. They ran it for 49 yards, and 35 of the 49 came on one play. We rehashed that stat time and time again. You got stuffed on 2 4th-and-1s. Once was a sack, one was a run that you couldn't convert. You weren't good running the ball, but you have been over the last 3 games, and that's an encouraging development on this team because all of a sudden it's difficult to try to take something away. If LSU's competent running the ball, the offensive line is really doing a good job at the point of attack, which they have been, and you've got the backs that are ready to roll, and Diggs is kind of taken over in that spot, and you'll see some of Josh Williams and some of John Emery like he did last week, and maybe Caleb Jackson works his way in. But you know what you've got on the outside where you're a mismatch for just about everyone. And Brian Kelly was on the SEC teleconference earlier today, and he was asked kind of about the balance that the offense has struck.
It's absolutely crucial for any really good offense, unless you're in a specific kind of an air raid type of offense, that it has the components of an intentional running game because it sets up so much that you want to do in terms of taking shots down the field and controlling short yardage and down and distance and things of that nature. So there's so many hidden components within the game as well in terms of having an established running game. So yeah, it's absolutely intentional, and I've always felt, philosophically that I never want to be a one-dimensional offensive structure. I want to be able to have the ability to be equally effective.
And that's what everyone wants outside of, the air raid guys and maybe the service academies running the triple option. Everybody else that's not in the air raid or the triple options looking to strike some sort of balance. And LSU has found that, and it kind of snuck up on me to know that they're running the ball that well, because I wouldn't suggest that Mississippi State and Arkansas and Ole Miss are great defenses, but Ole Miss did put up a fight in the game against Alabama, and they didn't against LSU. And I'm trying to find a little bit of positive on this Wednesday before we get into really breaking down Missouri coming up tomorrow and Friday. A little bit of a reset here as we've ragged on the defense for 2 days. The fact of the matter is, and that you know this, and you've heard it, and we've said it the last couple of days as well when we talk about the defense, but the offense is elite. And I think when you think of the running game, a lot of times you think of the running game as helping the quarterback. You help the quarterback. You put him in advantageous situations in terms of down and distance. You run some clock. You don't put the pressure on him. He can just hand the ball off and you can run it. And that's all true with Jayden Daniels. You are helping him with the running game. But what I actually think of when I think of LSU's running game starting to find it is not helping the quarterback. I don't know that the quarterback needs a lot of help right now. What I think of it is becomes a nightmare for the coordinator. Because in this era of college football, there just aren't a lot of teams defensively that can line up and dominate you on defense. Basically, defenses are on their heels for the most part in this era of college football. Not every game, not every time. I wouldn't suggest that Alabama's defense was on its heels against Ole Miss. They held them to 10 points. They were in the backfield all day. It was a domination. Texas A&M's defensive line has just wrecked shop the last 2 games, so it's possible to do it. But for the most part, when you look around in college football, a lot of points are being scored. It's something that I've talked about a ton in terms of the biggest games that we play, the Ohio State Clemsons, the Clemson Alabama, the LSU Alabamas, the USC, like the biggest games of the season in college football a lot of times are pretty offensive. And that's kind of the era that we're in right now. And so defenses are kind of, to use a bad play on words, on the defensive, like trying to make sure they plug as many holes as they can without really attacking. And that's kind of the way you've got to treat LSU. You want to come after LSU and bring the house. Jayden Daniels is pretty comfortable. He's been decisive, and he's been deadly accurate on one-on-one throws down the field. I mean, we've seen it against Mississippi State, saw it against Arkansas, and certainly saw it against Ole Miss. He's dropping balls into buckets, and those big athletic wide receivers are going to get him. And if you want to back up and make sure that doesn't happen, LSU's happy to take 6 yards on the ground, and that's what they're taking. Diggs did that against Arkansas at 7 yards per carry, and LSU ran it for 7 yards a carry against Ole Miss. You got to do something. And if you play LSU straight up, they're just probably going to be better than you on defense. Now, we'll see. Missouri's run defense is statistically the best in the SEC right now. Alabama's defensive front is big and physical. Auburn's defense has played pretty well. Alabama, did a really good job against Ole Miss. A&M, I mentioned them earlier. Like, there'll be tougher tests down the road, and maybe this regresses to the mean. But right now, when you look at LSU's personnel and you figure they've got 2 NFL tackles and a veteran center and veteran interior offensive line, a 5th-year quarterback, a 3rd-year running back, and 2 potential top 60 picks at wide receiver, that's going to be pretty good against just about everybody they play against. And all the highlights when you turn on SportsCenter or SEC Nation or whatever you turn on are going to be Jayden Daniels chucking it down the field and those guys making plays. But all of a sudden you dig deeper into the statistics and you go, they're running it like crazy too. Just strap in for some shootouts because that's what's coming over the next 2 months. LSU's going to be in games where points are plentiful. And I was talking to some friends about this earlier. The question was, would you rather watch LSU get beat like that, like they did against Ole Miss, or watch the Saints get beat like that? One can't get a stop, one can't get points. And they were like, well, we don't really like losing, but it's a lot more fun to watch when it's back and forth. Like, I don't know if that's much of a consolation prize to anyone here. I don't think losing to Ole Miss comes with much of a consolation prize, but it should be entertaining, and you really shouldn't feel like LSU's out of it. If the Saints get down 17 points, like, pretty much turn the channel over and watch The Office reruns. LSU gets down 2 scores like they did against Ole Miss. Well, just give us 15 minutes. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.